This is Kristina, your host today, and today is a new episode of KSM Podcast, Going Business Online with Kristina. And my dear audience, I'm so excited today to have my special guest speaker in our show today, Lady Suzana Mihajlovic, far away from Australia. Suzana, welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much, Kristina. It is absolutely my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
It's my pleasure for joining. Thank you for joining this interview, this podcast today. And Suzana, tell us a little bit about you, who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I am a success specialist, elite performance coach. I work with individuals as well as teams. So predominantly, business people, entrepreneurs that have a big goal, that want to get ahead with their business, but also professionals that want to learn about themselves, want to tap into their own potential and, have quantum leaps in terms of their results. In addition to that, I work with teams, train people to excel in their leadership skills and achieve big goals.
Oh, that's interesting. And tell us a little bit about your background. I know that you're in business more than now almost 30 years, but share with our audience today what is your background and what triggered you to start? What you're doing now?
Yeah, sure. So I've been doing this type of work for close to 35 years, not coming up to 9 years in business. So it'll be 9 years in business January. It's gone very quickly. So I started out studying psychology, and even during my studies, I was working. So that adds to that 35 years. And then went and did my postgraduate studies in health counselling, later on in business. I got into leadership very young. So I was 25, 26 when I was invited to run my first organisation. I was the executive director of the Serbian Welfare Association, working with humanitarian entrants. So Serbian and mixed marriage families from the former Yugoslavia. So that was my first leadership role. I was very young. I had a lot to learn, but I learnt very quickly. So predominantly, I've always been very interested, Kristina, in human potential and what that means. Even as a child, I was so fascinated by human beings. My first childhood memories was of people, young and old, even babies, wanting, just had a calmness around me. Older people, 80-year-olds, is Suzana going to be home, just to be around me? So I've always had this deep passion and understanding that comes naturally, with people's souls and fascinated about where people are going and what they can achieve. So that's what led me to study psychology and human potential. Since then, I got into business and have worked on my own as a success specialist.
And you just gave me an idea to ask you a question that we sometimes are born with that skill to be a leader, in terms that, let's say that either the mothers, for example, and girls, this is their nature to be a leader, for their kids, to give them, how to do that, don't do that, just like that they are focused on that. This is natural way, I mean, in terms of human potential, and after that go up.
Absolutely. I love that. And, I think you look at a child, Kristina, and they are potential, aren't they? They have so much within them, so much joy, so much adventure. They want to be, the best sports person, the best fireman, the best leader, the best mother, so they're daydreaming, they're using their higher faculty of imagination. And I do. We are born with pure potential, but because of the paradigms and messages that we get, from our parents, from teachers, from other siblings, from society, we start to kind of, build, in our subconscious these messages and ideas of who we are, and sometimes they prevent us and keep us small rather than expand our potential.
Yeah, and this isn't like a pattern what we had for our grandmas, grandpas, it's just like a forms.
Absolutely.
You have to do this, don't do that. And yeah, but however, that we can say that when you mention human potential, it's such amazing what we have as a human, I mean, as a human being.
Yeah, yeah. And Kristina, you actually have nailed it. You've actually, raised a really important point there. So often these messages are passed down from ancestors, generation to generation to generation. And often these paradigms that hold us back are really not ours. They've been passed down from generations ago that have got nothing to do with us. For example, my beautiful parents, I have the most incredible parents in the world. They are so intelligent, so supportive. We've been blessed with my parents. And my parents grew up in the Serbian rural areas, in the selo, which is, village in English, and extremely intelligent, extremely high potential within them. However, they grew up in poverty. So they moved to another country, Australia, and, that hard work and that mindset that, they've done very well as migrants. I'm so proud of them. But there's always that mindset of you have to hold on to your money, you work hard for your money, which a part of it is true, but it's got nothing to do with the society and the world that we live in. So this is how ideas and messages are passed down to us as children, and then we carry them for the rest of our life. And if we don't change them, we will pass them down to our children too. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and when you mentioned that, that's so, and congratulations. I'm super happy to hear about your parents. This is amazing, really. And yeah, this is what we learn from our parents and our, our
Yes,
siblings and community, and but also there are many people who live in the past. They don't live in the moment. And
that's
this is
right.
something which is so
That's right.
crucial that we need to change that and to have awareness about it. Like, as you can
Yeah,
say, conscious mind and subconscious mind, what we need to put in conscious way to be
yeah,
present, that we live
yeah.
in the present.
Absolutely. You're so right, Kristina. And if you look at most of society, they're on automatic pilot. So first of all, they're not even aware, but secondly, you are so right. Their subconscious has taken over. But also we are living in a very fast-paced world, and we're also living in an information world. So we are inundated with information. You turn on the TV and there's fear, there's messages coming on. You go onto social media, there's also messages coming on. There's so much information. You drive and on the radio, okay? Now, if you're not aware, you're so right. If you're not aware of how your mind works, then you're opening your subconscious to information that doesn't necessarily help you or benefit you. In fact, it can be detrimental. So I don't know what it's like in Serbia or in Europe at the moment, but I certainly know in Melbourne, in Australia, there's been a huge change in people where people are, becoming a lot more, stressed, wired, fearful, driving their cars, and there's road rage. This never used to be this city. And that's because so many people are subjected to fear and information that's going into their subconscious without them even realizing, okay? And it's not benefiting them. It's stressing them out. It's changing their limits in terms of resilience. So we've really got to be careful. We've really got to learn about ourselves, our marvelous minds, and also what we are allowing in our mind. Now, if you're in a state of overload and fear, you can't be in the present moment. So, yeah.
Yeah, and when you mention information, we like have some researchers say that like what man or woman is getting for 3 months of information. This is sometimes like a few years ago for 5, 6 years. Maybe I'm not don't
Yeah.
know that
Yeah.
in right way, but this is something what we consume, either that we on subconscious mind, we don't need that, because we need to know what to shift, how to cancel of something, and what to use. But
Yeah.
it's like a lot of information. And when you what you mentioned,
100%.
it's so true that people live in fear because they're
Yeah.
like a bombarding with all those information.
Yeah, correct. And Dr. Price Pritchett, who's one of the, world-known organizational psychologists, actually he said that in the next 5 years, Kristina, we are going to see more change just in 5 years, more change than what we've experienced in the past century. So more change than what we've experienced in the past 100 years we are going to see in just the next 5 years. So it's absolutely critical at this time that people really do understand their mind and how it works, and how to reject some of the information that's coming to them, how to become present, how to not allow everything to go into your subconscious, because what science shows us also, your subconscious is processing millions of pieces of information, millions, every single minute. Okay. Now,
you asking,
yeah,
do we need that? Do we need that? Sorry, just like
exactly.
the.
That's right. And exactly. And, if we don't learn how to reject some of that information, once it goes into the subconscious, as you would know, our subconscious will control our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors, and our results. Okay, controls 95 to 99% of you, of every part of you. So there's many people watching this podcast that might be thinking, well, how do I change? They're probably frustrated. They always get the same results over and over again, or they're living in a state of fear and they don't know how to step out of it. So, first thing is really, really be alert and understand your mind. Understand that your conscious mind, either accepts or rejects any
And I
idea that
think
comes.
that what I was talking to my mentors, it's about 90 to 95% is subconscious mind. We have only 5% conscious mind that we have like in this and
Correct. So it depends what research papers you look at. I saw one more recently, it's 99%, some are saying. But yes, you're right. So in between, 4, 5 to 6% of your mind, sometimes even less, is conscious. Correct. And your conscious mind is your thinking mind. We think we're thinking, but we're really on automatic pilot. So your conscious mind takes information in that it can see from the 5 senses, and it will either accept or reject. So you have the power to reject all of this information that's coming to you. You have the power to just choose information that will benefit you, that will expand you, that will keep you in the present, that will help you with your success, whatever success means to you, that will help you with your leadership if you're a leader or you want to become a leader. So we have enormous, enormous power within ourselves.
And
We
do you
cannot
think
possibly.
that people will need some kind of mentors and coaches and consultants,
Yeah.
counselor,
Yeah.
just to
Counselors. Yeah.
counsels, advisors, to help them to that they know how to resonate what they need, how to counsel of some information and how to use them in a right way, and
Yeah.
information what they need in a future
Absolutely.
time, which is
Absolutely.
coming.
100%. Finding the right mentor, teacher, coach is not just important, it's absolutely essential. So in my career, I have worked with thousands of people. In my 9 years of business, I have helped out my company, myself has helped thousands of people. Okay. Now, you can change your subconscious on your own. Absolutely, you can do that. However, remember your subconscious doesn't want to change. So it's extremely difficult to do it on your own because it will self-sabotage you. Self-sabotage can come in many forms. It could come in feeling stuck, having a little accident, just forgetting, that you're working on new habits. So it's like a thermostat, your heater. So we set our heater. So in Europe, it's cold now. In Australia, it's summer. So let's say Europe, okay, it's cold outside, it's snowing. So you set your thermostat in your home at a warm temperature. Let's say, 22 degrees. So the heater will heat the room to 20 degrees. And it will keep the room at the consistent temperature of 20 degrees Celsius. As soon as somebody opens a window and the cold air comes in, the thermostat, the cybernetic mechanism in the heater will notice a deviation. So the temperature will drop. It will drop to 20, 15, whatever. Okay, so the mechanism will notice a deviation, and automatically the heating, the machine will speed up to bring the temperature back to 22 degrees or whatever it was. This is exactly how your subconscious mind works. It is set. It is set. Okay? Now, as soon as you start, so let's say, it's set at you earning $100,000 a year, let's say, but you're a business person and everything is expensive out there. So you want to bring your business or your team to $1 million. Okay. What most people do, they have that goal of $1 million from 100,000. They've never achieved more than 100,000. So they start working hard. They work so hard. But what happens is, without changing your mindset and finding someone to help you with that, what happens is, as soon as they deviate from that 100,000, they'll get to 150, maybe 200. And then the thermostat notices a deviation and it'll bring you back. Okay. And then what people do is they quit. They think, oh, well, I can't, I'm not good enough, or I'm not designed to lead teams. I'm not designed for business. I'm not designed to be a success.
What
That's
we can
for
say,
someone
like
else.
imposter syndrome.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. I was actually really surprised to see in Australia there was a study with professionals, with leaders, and over 75% of the leaders had imposter syndrome, even though they were high performing. So, so we all are designed to achieve the million or the whatever it is that your success is, to travel around the world, whatever it is. We all have infinite potential. You and I have the same potential. Everybody that's viewing this has the exact same potential. We've just got to change the thermostat. So in my years of doing this work, I've worked with many people. Personally, I haven't met anybody that has changed it on their own permanently. They come back, okay? It doesn't mean that you can't change your subconscious on your own. You can. But even with 35 years experience in the field, I'm always looking for who's my next mentor because I want to keep stretching and growing. So to answer your question, I believe everybody, every single person, when you invest in yourself, that's the best investment that you can ever make.
Yes, and as you say, we all grow because, through that podcast, as I met amazing people, and they share their amazing stories, as you are doing at the moment. And I'm super happy with that. And I know that we all need to stretch ourselves to move forward because
Yeah,
like a knowledge is never ending story, never stop. We always need to learn,
yeah,
as you mentioned, of all these kind of millions information what people consume. So that's the way where we wanted to go, in terms
yeah,
that we can finish one area of our business or decade and then continues to go in the same area, or just to shift and move in some
yeah.
other industry or something like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, Kristina, when you said that, you reminded me of one of my greatest mentors. I've had many mentors. One of my greatest mentors was Bob Proctor. And even towards the end of his life, this man had achieved incredible things. His legacy has just begun. Like there's millions of people that have benefited from him and his teachings. But he used to say towards the end of his life, over 60 years experience in human potential. And he used to say, I've only just scratched the scratch of the surface of my potential. I've just scratched it. Okay, so we have infinite potential inside us. It goes on forever and ever and ever and ever. We cannot possibly fulfill all of our potential in one lifetime. So, yeah.
And he said, like, I always like that, if I can do it and you can do it. And
Absolutely.
Suzana, share with us what triggered you to start with Bob Proctor? When you have your career, you have your business, and you wanted to shift something, is that correct? So what triggered
Yeah,
you? What influenced you? What was that momentum to say, okay, I wanted to experience this. I wanted to work. I wanted to learn about Bob Proctor coaching and educational, and with Bob Proctor Gallagher
absolutely.
Institute and other things.
Yeah, I did not know anything about the Proctor Gallagher Institute. It's so interesting. So I was one of those children that always knew my future. I knew that one day I would be helping people on a large scale. So therefore, I was always so interested. I would read self-help books. I would, explore deeper and deeper and deeper. And I think I discovered Bob probably, oh gosh, it was in the 90s. And for quite a few years, I was driving to work. So I had, a pretty reasonable drive to work in the morning in the traffic. And I would get my coffee. I love my coffee in the car. And rather than listen to any music or radio, that was my time with Bob Proctor. And I listened to Dr. Joe Dispenza quite a bit. But what happened I get chills every time I share this story. For years, I knew that I wanted to work for myself, okay, but I was too afraid to work for myself. And I also knew that one day I would be sharing the stage with Bob Proctor, okay. Didn't even know Proctor Gallagher existed. So as I was driving to work, I was driving as the person in my imagination that was friends with Bob Proctor and that shared the stage with Bob Proctor, and that we had a mutual respect for our professionalism. So I didn't even know you can work with him. I had no idea. Okay, I just knew that that was my destiny. I felt it in every part of my body. So I would get to work, park my car, I was in senior management, but inside me, I was their consultant. I was the person that the company I work for hired to help them with their leadership and human potential side of things. Nobody knew that I was feeling this and experiencing this. And I was earning, in my mind, I was earning my annual salary monthly, right? So what happened was in 2016, I wrote down that because I was too scared to leave work because I had two mortgages. I didn't have any other debts, but two large mortgages. And 2016, January 2016, I wrote down 3 big goals. And one of those goals was that I was going to leave work and start my business by April. Okay. Out of the 3 goals, I achieved the other 2. But the third one, April came and I didn't achieve it. I was still too scared to leave work. But every part of me wanted to go into business. And what happened was 2 weeks after, so it was mid-April 2016, my boss called me into her office and said, Suzana, we're having a restructure. I'm sorry to tell you, but your job is going to be, your role is one of the roles that will no longer be there. And they said you can take a package and leave, or you can stay with another role. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this could not happen in any better way. So now I can leave. The universe made the path for me to leave and get a package. So I'll have a little bit of money there, to start my business. So, we knew the answer. I took the package. And then a couple of days later, the CEO called me and said, you cannot leave. We are not going to let you go. You have to meet with me first. So long story short, I gave him until the end of the year, and then I decided to leave. So my last day of full-time employment was January 31st, 2017. I went into business. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I started to panic. And then I did one of Bob Proctor's seminars. And that's when I realized that you can work with him. I had no idea that you can become a consultant.
And when you started your business, who do you start work with? Who were your clients in that moment? When you go to use that seminar, but what was your core of your business, what you started with as an entrepreneur, as a women entrepreneur?
So I have a very interesting story there. So even though I was very successful in the job, right, when I had the job, okay, it took me 9 months to get my first client. So September that year. Okay, so my paradigm, so remember the thermostat? Okay, my subconscious, even though I wanted this all my life, was programmed to a job. It was programmed to relying on someone else for money. I've never been out of a job, okay, apart from when I got back from Japan for about a month. So my job, my subconscious was programmed to going out there, doing a great job, and then someone else will pay me for it. So it took me 9 months to get my first client. That client was my friend, and I discounted my program, discounted it so much. But I did not get it took me a good year to get momentum in my business because those programs was the subconscious programming was so strong. So how did I get that client? Well, I was desperate, and I asked my friend to jump on board. That's how my first client
came. When you are
came.
doing now, what do you help? What are you mostly help your clients? What are they struggle with in terms to connect with you and to you work with them as a coach, as a mentor, as a consultant?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. So I've had, like I said, thousands of clients that I have, we have supported, and most of them were either like me, So I've had clients that are still in their profession, still in their job, yet want to take off in business. I've also had clients that have been in business for years and years and have had global companies. So I've had the whole spectrum of clients, and then people that just want to excel in their career. They don't want a business. So one of the most common, if I was to choose one thing, it's changing that self-image, that self-identity, okay? So most of them either want to break through and change their paradigms to become a successful business person, or they want to take their results to the next quantum level, okay? The most number one thing that people talk to me about is money. Even though they have a lot of money, it's amazing how many issues we have around money. However, most of the problems or the reason people are stuck, I don't like that word stuck because I don't think we're ever stuck, but they think they're stuck, is because of their self-identity. So it doesn't matter what the problem is, it's the self-identity. So they're holding on to their old self, which is limited, which is insecure, right? That's not going to help them achieve their goal. We need to create a new self-identity, okay, whether it's as a leader, as a successful business person. And that is one of the most difficult things for people to do.
And that means that we need to change our self-image and work on that.
Absolutely. If we want permanent success, we absolutely 100% have to change our self-image. So yeah, I mean, Dr. Maxwell Maltz back in the 50s and 60s said, you know, change your self-image and you change your results. You know, that is, yeah.
And when we wanted to change that self-image, we don't need just to change our branding. I mean, to have a, you know, just to have a new like an outside. We need to change everything. I mean, inside of us. Just
Correct.
if you can share with us a little bit,
Correct.
just to
Yeah,
maybe just some
100%.
steps what we need to do in terms when we wanted to change our self-image.
Absolutely. And you are so right. So even though I had studied psychology, counseling, business, had all this experience, Kristina, I always thought self-image was the way that you dress, you know, the image on the outside, okay? What I learnt is exactly what you said, right? What I learned, and when I look back at my own success and my failures too, we all have, like, in order to be a success, you must fail, okay? Right? So when I look back at my own self, it was that change in self-image that actually changed from the inside, okay? So one of the simplest things that you can do is look at yourself currently. Understand how you think. What's the story that you tell yourself about yourself currently and about success, whatever success means to you, whether it's $1 million, $10 million, whether it's that beautiful relationship, whether it's, you know, having your house, whatever success, it's different for all of us. So how do you think? What are your thoughts? Watch your thoughts like a hawk. And then just as importantly, maybe even more importantly, watch your feelings. How do you feel, right? Because feeling is the subconscious mind, your heart, okay? How do I act? So how do I think? How do I feel? How do I act? What are my results? Ask yourself those questions, get them out. That's going to tell you a story about where you are and why you are at right now. Then ask yourself, how long have I been this way? Most people say, oh, since childhood. Okay, so this is our program way of being. So that's what we need to clear up and need to change. Okay, and then look at your goal. and ask yourself, well, how would I think, feel, and act as the person, as that goal? The most simple way is let go of the old and only start to think, feel, and act in the new way until that becomes your new programming.
It's like reprogram yourself.
It's absolutely reprogramming yourself. Absolutely. Most people won't be consistent on their own because it takes time to change your programming.
But I think that people need mentors, that people couldn't do that alone because they are not that they need someone to run them through the process. Because, when you have a mentor and coach, you can say, okay, I start with this, and you are, just like to move forward. But if we maybe we want to, and sometimes there are people who want something, and they say, okay, maybe they're influenced by their influencers, or they look at some pictures, images, and when you ask them, they don't know what they need. But in that way, they need to take action. If we don't take action, we have never go. We will stay at the same way. And
it is so true, and what you say is so right. Most people don't know what they really, really want because they're bombarded with so much stuff that is not theirs. 100%. 100%. So what do you want? This is your life. What would you really, really love, to be, do, or have? Because that thing, that desire, is actually your guidance system. I believe desire is God talking to you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting. I mean, but as you said, people don't have courage. I know when we've done websites from 10 years ago, and they say, okay, I want a website. This is just example, but people want something. But I always say, if you don't try, you have never know how it's going to be, because we need to take action, and we don't know, if I can take action with something. People, either the Desk Podcast just support like a supportive community, or for people who wanted to start business or have business idea, and they don't know how to do it, so that's the way that they need to start.
That's right.
Just take action.
Absolutely. Kristina, when I was sharing, so I left work, and even though I had success in my career and was hardly ever without a job, and then it was so hard, right? So I left my job when I was in a lot of debt, like a lot of debt in terms of mortgage. I had 2 mortgages that I was paying off on my own, not with my partner, on my own, okay? Because I got those houses when I was a lot younger. And so I left the job and went cold turkey into business. Never been in business before. So even though I didn't have a job, okay, and I had a huge mortgage, I then invested another 30,000, I think it was, to get coaching, to become a consultant, right? So I didn't have the money to invest. I just knew I had to find the money. And if I didn't do that, I really wouldn't be here now. The dream was to work with Bob, to be coached by Bob. I did what it took. I promised myself that I would do what it takes, no matter what. And it was not easy. It was not easy. And I could have gone back to work. They would have accepted me like full time anywhere. That was an easy option. And I was so scared. I had panic attacks every day, Kristina, because I was never out of money. I always had a job, security. And I get chills now when I think back. What if I didn't? What if I did go back to the job? What if I didn't invest that money in coaching when I didn't have the money? When I was scared, I was like, well, how am I going to pay my mortgage? I would never have experienced the dream and the life that I've always wanted to experience.
That's we need that experience. I for many 15 years ago now, when I was working in it was like a newspaper house, like a very old in Serbia, in Belgrade, and
Yes.
in that time it was in marketing. I was working in marketing, but after 10 years working there, I finally went to the hospital because I had a problem with the pressure with managers.
Mhm.
They argued, it was like anyway. So
Yes.
I decided to cut off that. And that part of that company was shutting down. And I said, thank you, God. So I have never go in corporate world. And this is
Yes.
how I started my team for the web and graphic design and I have never been to have my podcast that I was like to work in that. And I said, okay,
Yes.
I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to have my own business journey. And I realized that, so for me, it's like I can work with who I wanted to work. I can host who I wanted to host. I have never known that I'm going to have my podcast. Either that English is my second language, and I was so shy in front of camera. But I've done Challenge 21 Day. It was like for now 5 years ago. But for
Uh-huh.
me, like okay, and when you work for yourself, you can work whoever you wanted to work, and to
Yes.
to
I
to
know.
resonate
Yes.
and to work with people who resonate with you, not just to
Exactly.
work
That's
that you
right.
can work in corporate sector and you have colleagues. So this is a you can see that with other eyes. I mean, how you can say so
That's
when
right.
you're in
And
your
you are
business shoes.
totally, yeah, totally authentic. You're authentic. But also look at how many people you have helped. Look at the incredible work you do and you've done for so many people out there. Look how many people have been helped by your podcast. Okay. This is happened because you were brave enough to take a risk and follow your heart, follow what you were created to do, you know,
I really
and
do
you're
that
going
from
to,
my heart. I really love what
yeah,
I do. That's
yes,
people
yes,
see that on my
that's
face.
right, yeah. And as a result, so many people have been helped by you, you know, like what you're doing is just incredible. And this is just the
Thank you so
start.
very much. I love
This is
that.
just the start. Yeah. Yep.
It's such amazing show today. So, Susanna, I have for you a few questions because this is a part of. So, as I said, that always that this podcast, I got amazing answers. I can ask my amazing guest speakers and always have answers. So, uh, I would love to. You mentioned leadership in business, and I have three questions for you. But before we dive deep into that, let me know what do you think? What is the leadership in business? What in general, not just like say like a to give definition, but what is the meaning by what do you think about it? Just for our audience to share, that people can connect more with what
Yeah.
leadership is, what a leadership is in business.
Absolutely. So, you know, we have great leadership. We have, you know, ordinary leadership and weak leadership. When I was in the job, one of the frequent questions that was asked, what's the difference between a leader and a manager? So, a great leader to me and a leadership in business is a leader that has a vision, a mission, and a passion to make a difference. So they have a vision of how their product or service can change the world or can change and improve other people's lives. So they are led by a passion and desire to serve and make a difference. That's one of the first things. Vision, you know, there's the great quote in the Bible, without vision, people perish. Without vision and passion and commitment from a leader, their people will perish. Their product will perish. Their business will perish. But a leader that has a strong, big vision, a vision that's almost impossible, nothing's impossible, that will stretch and grow them and keep them going every day. I think that is one of the core foundations of great leadership. Now, if you have a great vision and passion and mission, you start to attract people. People want to be with somebody that knows where they're going, somebody that has that energy and that passion. So, and then there's your daily habits as a leader. So a leader is somebody, a good leader, a great leader is somebody that can lead themselves first. So they know where they're going, but they also know their strengths and their weaknesses, and they can lead themselves when they're not doing so well, when some of the weaknesses come, okay? They can lead themselves. And then there's the leader of your team, of leading other people. So first of all, the team needs to know where they're going. What's the goal? What's the vision? What's the purpose? And I like to also talk about heart-centered leadership. Okay, so leaders that...
Oh, that's interesting. Please share with us.
Yeah, leaders that are connected to the heart. Leaders that have got high emotional intelligence. So what that means is leaders that understand other people, are able to connect with other people, are able to communicate clearly, bring out their strengths, are understanding rather than they punish or they're in a bad mood or whatever all the time, okay? And they're able to bring out the best in others, okay? And they're heart-centered rather than just do. They're the ones that get the most out of their people. So we can go even deeper than that. There's been over 30 years of research on heart-centered people, on people that have got heart-brain coherence. So what that means is, so there's studies that show that our heart is our first brain, and the reason for that is your heart is sending more messages to your brain than what your brain is sending anywhere else. So leaders that are heart-centered, that are compassionate, that are grateful, that see the best in other people, that are intuitive, okay, they tend to have higher heart coherence. So there's clearer messages going into their brain. So as a result, they're able to think clearly also, okay? Swinburne University, I've done some studies at Swinburne University. That's a university in Melbourne, but they've got a global study that's well known around the world in their School of Entrepreneurship. And that study showed that entrepreneurs, they studied multiple entrepreneurs. So what that means is entrepreneurs that have had many businesses, and they always seem to be a success in business. The study showed two common things. 80%, over 80% of people of the entrepreneurs in that study had two common factors. Okay, number one is they made intuitive decisions rather than rational decisions. And number two, they had incredible gratitude for their mentors and people that helped them. So these two attributes, connecting with intuition rather than just thinking and listening to data and whatever everyone else is saying you should do. So they were intuitive leaders, so intuition and gratitude, they are two attributes of heart-centered leadership, of a coherent heart. So more and more research is showing that heart-centered leaders are leaders that tend to get the most out of people, okay? because they care for people. They're emotionally intelligent. They communicate clearly. They're able to listen and be present, as you mentioned. They're intuitive. They're grateful. So heart-centered leaders and highly emotional, intelligent leaders, research is showing us they are getting more and more out of their teams and better results than traditional leadership. Yeah.
Excellent. I love that because, as you mentioned, from my perspective, I really, everything what I do it for my heart. And working
Yes.
with my students more than 20 years, 25, my students here in Serbia, and I still work with them like a one-to-one,
Yes.
one-to-group. And also what I do, as you mentioned, we are as a, like a board leaders because as a women and also women
Yes.
entrepreneur and people feel that either that you're not just like a leader and you lead like a sports team or you lead some as a leader of a team, not just like that. You need to have that, as we mentioned, inside of you, to have emotion, to have intelligence, to have understanding for your team, for your employees, for all, as a persona, as a personality. How can it to be
Absolutely.
under the pressure and that people can follow you, but also you need to lead them in terms to respect them as a human being, first and foremost.
Correct. Absolutely. You know what you said, people, you can't fake that. People feel that. But also what you said, a leader is somebody that people love to follow. They follow because of their own decision, right? Not a leader because they're forced to follow. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really because in terms, for example, for professors, like from my experience, and there are students, let's say here in Serbia or in other countries, and they have the final subject in
Yeah.
university, and
Yeah.
they cannot get exam because that professor is so sharp, so hard, but this is a like he feels that he's like a god in some way, and
Yeah.
that person just feel anxiety of that because we is especially as like leaders, we need to be first and foremost human to help each other. And then people are so in professional way, but just put aside that. And
Correct.
from some reason, there are those professors or leaders or whatever, they just change the life of students or employees and move them back. And they just
Correct.
they disappointed and they just leave. They have left university and
That's
stay in
right.
high school. Just
That's right.
imagine that you can change some careers, some lives. This is not,
Absolutely. You can change lives, can't you?
of
Yeah,
course.
just
And that what you
showing
said, you
people.
need to follow
Yeah,
some good person as a leader to with your
yeah,
heart centered, heart oriented. Yeah.
absolutely. Now, a leader is also not a pushover. Some people when they hear heart-centered leadership, they relate it to, oh, they're a doormat. No, no, studies actually show you're even stronger as a heart-centered leader and you're able to keep your boundaries also, So yeah,
And do you
definitely.
have some kind to recommend us for our listeners, maybe some literature or like some books or something like that? Or
Yeah,
if you have something, I can share that links here that people can just read that or find on internet
sure.
about
So I've read so many.
centered leader,
Yeah,
heart-oriented
absolutely.
leader.
Yeah, so the number one thing is vision and understanding where you want to go. Yeah, so really being clear as to where you want to go. So be still and be clear. So the first chapter of my book, you can get that for free. It's on my website. So your2minds, the digit 2.com, and you can get the first chapter of my book. So what that chapter helps you understand how to change parts of your life and how to get clear on where you want the rest of your life to go. So the vision and the mission and the purpose is the first thing, okay? So there is a lot of, emotional intelligence books out there. Daniel Goldman with his classic emotional intelligence, there's one, out there with that. Number one thing is to get clarity of where you want to go first. That's the number one thing. Remember, vision and desire. So leader needs to know where they're going first, and then the heart-centered leadership. There's some beautiful breathing techniques that I teach, which based on the HeartMath Institute, that helps people get heart coherence. A simple thing for people is they can just put their hand on their heart and imagine that they're breathing in and out from their heart center or chest area, and do that for a few minutes. And if you do that consistently every single day, a few times a day, your heart and mind will start to get coherent. So even if you did that exercise with clarity of vision of where you're going, that's going to help, definitely.
Thank you for sharing that, but for all your listeners who will listen to this episode today, just connect with Suzana. I will put all information, Suzana Mihajlovic, and she can help you. So I think that you have also consultation that people can connect with you to ask you what they need or to help them or so.
Definitely. I'll give you our email address and they can reach out, and I'll actually give them my personal.
And where are you present also? On Instagram, Facebook, when people can, you mentioned that you have your Facebook group also.
Correct. So I have a Facebook account. So Suzana Mihajlovic. There's also Your Two Minds account, which I don't use as much. We have a Facebook group called the Elite Circle, but you'll find that, even if you just found me on Facebook, Suzana Mihajlovic, you can connect with me there. I do have an Instagram page. I don't use it as much. I'm not that great with social media. Getting better. LinkedIn also, but probably the best one is Suzana Mihajlovic Facebook. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So you share a lot. So for all listeners who will listen, just please connect with Suzana. She can help you a lot, and she's such an amazing coach, like led by Bob Proctor, and she can help you a lot. So, and before we ramp up our call, it's such a pleasure talking to you, and we share such amazing questions and answers and everything. So. And I have someone for you, before we ramp up, and just to see, times have changed and there is more pressure on team than even before. And what do leaders need to know about leading in this new era of rapid change of immense pressure?
Yeah, for sure. So, Kristina, as we were speaking earlier, there is so much information, so much fear out there, but also significant change. So, as I mentioned, it's been predicted, Dr. Price Pritchard has said the next 5 years, we will see more change than what we've experienced in the past 100 years. But also the economic situation of the world. People are feeling more pressured, people that are bringing up families, mortgages. So they're going to work stressed and burnt out anyway. On top of that, there is significant change that has started. I mean, I've noticed a difference just in the past year, let alone the next four years. It's going to be even more rapid. So leaders that I've spoken to are finding that have been in leadership for a long time and have done a great job. They're not sure how to lead in this new environment. And this is why also the heart-brain coherence is so, so important, because it not only helps you, connect with your brain and intuition. What it does is leaders that are coherent, their nervous system, so with all this fear and everything that's going on in the world, and burnout and tiredness and survival and all of that, most of society, or a large number of society and teams, are working from the sympathetic nervous system. So their sympathetic nervous system is activated constantly. So the sympathetic nervous system is the branch of the nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, where it's fight or flight, okay? Where we are releasing the stress hormone of cortisol, right? Now, we need fight or flight, but it's only designed. It's designed for us to escape danger, and then we're meant to go back to our normal state, which is the parasympathetic nervous, to a calm state. So we're living in a society, leaders are leading teams that are constantly releasing cortisol, constantly on with the sympathetic branch, so stressed, constricted, maybe aggressive because of that, very fearful. What that does, it blocks your brain and your thinking too, okay? So what leaders need to do is they need to start to get coherent themselves. And with the heart-brain coherence, with these simple breathing techniques, they move from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is the calm, it's the regulated nervous system. It's the nervous system, as you mentioned earlier, it brings us to the present. Okay? And also, we start to release around 1,400, our body releases around 1,400 healthy chemicals, one of which is DHEA. So what that does then, it reaches the thalamus of your brain, and your brain is able to be organized and start to think clearly, right? So you're able to process the information of your team, of what's happening, of all these different changes, the complex environment that we're in, and you're able to look at solutions quicker, as well as tap into your intuition. But also what studies show is a coherent leader is feeding the field. What does that mean, right? So have you ever walked into a room and you just notice that something is tense, something has happened? Okay, right? So what science shows us is that's real. We're able to tap into the energy around us affects us. So a leader that is functioning with a coherent heart and mind, and has their parasympathetic nervous system activated, they are releasing a sense of calm, even though it looks all dangerous and the world is as it is, and everyone's stressed with what they have to do, and there's so much change. They are releasing the energy of calm. So when their team is around them, they will naturally start to feel calmer too. So, I cannot stress heart-brain coherence, enough. I mean, they're using these techniques in NASA for astronauts, right? Fortune 500 companies, leaders of Fortune 500 companies. So, and that's one of the things that I help, leaders, teams with. If we cannot get coherent now, as these changes are coming, we're going to find ourselves more and more stressed, physically ill, but also teams are not going to be coherent. There's going to be conflict. They're not going to work as well, and we won't achieve our goals. they'll be dysfunctional.
Susan, just share amazing information, and it's like a masterclass. Thank you for sharing that, and I think that it's going to be so useful for all of us and for myself as well. Because thank you again for sharing, because it's so educational and new information, and this is new era. This is new way that people need, and
Absolutely.
leaders to change with their them own self, just to be
Yes,
better leader, and
absolutely.
how to play in this environment of AI,
Absolutely.
of all those kind of things, and
That's right.
times
All
which
these
is coming,
changes.
which comes.
Yeah, absolutely. And the benefit of it is, they become a better leader naturally, but they also feel good within themselves too. They start to love themselves more and feel coherent in their own selves and in their own lives. And when they go home, they are a better mother, father, partner, whatever it is. So,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. This is our core of our life is just like our family. If we're not good in that,
that's
and
right.
just go out like always nervous or with stressful, so this is not going to be good for our team and
No,
our
that's true.
employees. So, do you have, I always ask my guest speakers, do you have some final message for our audience if they wanted to start business, or if they are leaders? What will be your message to our audience today?
For sure, absolutely. So, you know, first of all, I want everybody to know that thing within you, that thing that you really, really want, whether it's your business, whether it's if it's, to start your own business, take it to the next big level, whatever dream you have, whatever it is within you, number one thing, no matter what your past has been, no matter what your failures have been, you can be a success 100%. 100%. Now, it's not going to happen overnight. You will fail along the way. I have failed. Everybody that's successful has failed. Failure is a part of success. Okay? You can do it. You can do it. But you must change from inside first. So be clear on your vision, be clear on your goal. Where are you going? What is it that you really, really want? Find a mentor and change from within, because there is greatness within you. There really is greatness within you. And all you have to do is tap into that greatness.
Susanna, thank you so very much. I really enjoyed this conversation today, and I cannot say how I'm happy, and it's such a pleasure, really having you today. And you just opened my eyes with other some things which maybe I didn't focus on, and thank you. What to say? Wish you such a amazing 2026 and very successful, and for all our audience to change their life, to achieve whatever they wanted to achieve, and that will be message from me as a host today.
Kristina, I want to thank you. It's my absolute honor to be on your podcast. You are doing incredible work. Thank you for what you do, because you really make a difference. So it's my honor to be here, and just keep shining. Keep shining, because you're going to help so many people. Thank you so, so, so much.
Thank you and it's my honor to have you today. Thank you so very much, and don't forget we will be again next year, just like in this 2026. Thank you so very much, and have a lovely day, and bye for now.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you.